The Disrupt Education vlog can be found on YouTube. To hear it in podcast form, search Disrupt Education on any of the following podcast platforms: Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Breaker, Castbox, Overcast, Radio Public, Pocket Cast, Spotify, or Stitcher. Welcome to this episode of Disrupt Education. We are going worldwide today. I have Julio Maria, who is, he enables powerful personal transformations to drive life, business, career fulfillment in humans. He has trained over 600 people. He's led a launch in an incubator, top tier in Mozambique and Maputo. I got too many things to list here, but Julio, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hey Peter, I'm so happy to be here with you today. I'm really looking forward for our conversation.
Awesome. Well, let's jump into who you are and where you are right now and what you do. I know there's a lot. So let's just start with who you are and how do you help, basically people get to career and their personal fulfillment.
Yeah, of course. So it all started, I grew up in a small town in Mozambique, in the north of Mozambique. And throughout my entire childhood, education was such a big component. My mother was a teacher. And so, I grew up surrounded by books, by theories and how we can support people and, help people to be better. And, what kind of information is updated and outdated and those sort of things. And yeah, it was just a normal childhood, nothing really, different or crazy going on. From there, I moved to the center of my country and where I was doing my university. And something that is so fun is that for the longest time, I was scared of working with people. To me, people were just too complicated. People had so many issues, they could lie to you, So to me, plants were and animals, for the matter, were like the most trustworthy things in the planet. So I decided to do agricultural engineering, with a specialization in agribusiness. So kind of like running away from people. But soon I realized that if you want to work in this world, you have to work with people, right? So there is no escaping that because you have coworkers at work, you have colleagues, you have peers, so there's no running away from people. And it kind of like started with a friend of mine that wanted to create this technical vocational program for young people in this very small town in Mozambique. And he's just, the business side of things, making money and ensuring that, we all have paychecks in the end of the day. And I was all the educational guy, right? Mm-hmm. The guy who has been teaching his colleagues. I was a lecturer assistant in my university. So we were kind of a perfect match. And we decided to, we're going to teach marketing and HR and basic English and all this amazing technical stuff. But then the first day that I got into the classroom, I realized that I just couldn't go and speak about those things because people weren't ready, right? To give everyone an idea, this is a city where, people were still in that very much patriarchal hierarchy, where people didn't feel comfortable enough to speaking up, to question their teachers. Teachers was kind of like a god that knows everything, and you should never question anything that the teacher says, otherwise you're being rude or unpolite. So I really had to take a step back and start working with people first, right? Making sure that they feel safe, they feel comfortable, and they were also committed with the training, because I don't want to be one of those boring teachers that, just reads a PowerPoint or, just speaks about their life and how, the economy is down and how students are just, being crazy punks and stuff like that. So yeah, it really started on that. I had some sort of an epiphany in realizing that if you want to support people in their business and their careers, we have to first support the person itself. Right? The human part of us is very important. So yeah, from that, I started working with that startup of mine, and then I quickly realized that I just wanted to do more. Right? The feeling that, because if you ever run a business or a startup, you realize that you are the one who makes the shots, right? You are the one who have to decide, who gets paid how much, if you're going to buy something now, we're going to, save it and buy something later. So I was kind of feeling that, everyone will come to me for decisions that most of the time they didn't have the answers. And I was feeling the need to have some sort of a mentor or have a leadership that will kind of like help me tap into my own potential and grow. So that's why I started looking for a job. And the funny part is that I connected with this amazing woman, Tatiana. She's the co-founder of Idea Lab, the company that I work for. And it was just a perfect match. She had all the experience that I was looking for. She was willing to take someone who, although I have my background is in engineering, I was trying to work in marketing as well because I was just loved it in university. And she was willing to take someone who didn't have the academic background to work. So it was fine by me. And it was amazing. We started working with entrepreneurship. I had the training background. Our methodologies were kind of the same, where we have fun learning, where, we really focus on you as a person. So I learned a lot in that process. And now I kind of like moved on another side gig and I created Sharing Knowledge International.
A true entrepreneur. A true entrepreneur. That's what you do. You're like, I get one thing, I'm going to go to another. Yeah, that's awesome. Sorry to interrupt, but I just love that. It's worldwide. We are all like addicted to like doing all kinds of cool things.
Yeah, sure. Because one thing that I remember it was in college, after college, when you have to pick a course, I was like, it's so unfair that I have to pick one course and do the same thing for like the rest of my life. I don't want that, right? I want to be able to experiment and try new things and decide whatever I'm going to do next. So yeah, and then with the whole point of sharing knowledge was that I think that was missing out from Idea Lab is that we work mainly with entrepreneurs, right? That's the core business of it. Mm-hmm. So there was not much room for necessarily life coaching or career coaching, right? We want to speak about those things in a kind of like a business environment, right? So how you create an organization where people are allowed to develop their careers, but not necessarily supporting you in develop your own career. So that's all the focus with sharing knowledge. And because I really believe that the internet kind of came to revolutionize a lot of things, I decided to create a completely online business so that I can support people everywhere in the world. And yeah, this has been very, very fun.
So in your educational path, is it so to go off into something different, right? You were going to be an engineer and then you figured these things out. Is that against the grain? Is that where, is it in your country, is it where, okay, you should probably be an engineer if you go to school as an engineer, or is it common for people to really kind of shift out of that or see what's going on after university?
Well, I would say it's 50-50 because I still have family members and friends that are still asking me when I'm going to go and get myself a land and grow crops. Till this day, I graduated in 2015, but till this day, I have people asking me that. So yeah, it's very common for people to kind of like go along the lines where they studied. But on the other hand, a lot of people do courses because their parents want them to do that course, not necessarily because they have fun or they love it. That's one. And also a lot of people do courses expecting something, and then they realize that the daily basis of implementing that knowledge is completely different from what they expected, right? They didn't do the research and speaking with professionals in that area in the first place. So, and that's one thing, but also because of the whole economic conjuncture here in Mozambique, is way common for people to have kind of like side gigs or just working on something that gives them money in the first place. So it is, 50-50 kind of situation. But I always get questions, when I'm presenting my profile on a training or a conference, it's always, something that people laugh about. And I also laughed about, right? Because who thought that an agriculture engineer would then work in marketing for, a couple of years and then is doing life, career, and business coaching, right? But it's the fun of it because I have such a diverse background. I'm able to connect points that most people cannot because they don't have that experience. And yeah, I'm really grateful for trying different things. It's what makes me different.
One of the things I think that is also worldwide is what you were talking about, having a safe place to actually question, right? And have conversation and or speak out in a classroom. What are the ways that is right now in, let's go to like your traditional education system there, and you felt like when you were sitting with students, no one's talking, right? You don't know whether they're ready. You don't, you know, how did you strategize to kind of break that down into kind of a safe place for people to actually start talking about their business ideas or setting up or getting them ready to actually become an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So the first thing that I did was like for like I don't know how many years I used to kind of like demonize the traditional educational system, but then I came to realize that the traditional educational system is based on, you know, the Industrial Revolution, right? When you were supposed to go to a factory, you have a certain amount of hours, and you have to produce, you know, this, and that in this amount of time. And unfortunately, our education system, you know, didn't update it. It's not updated to our current times, right? So that's the first thing to understand. And then it's when you come to, you know, to decide where you're going to be, what you're going to do, you know, what's your role in all of this, right? And I remember the first thing I had to do with, you know, the first students that I had was give them a post-it, a simple exercise, give them a post-it, and let them write down the most stupid thing they have ever done, just to break an ice, you know, and just so they can understand that we all make mistakes, right? I feel the best way to kind of create a safe space is through empathy. And it's easy to, you know, develop empathy towards something that we were wrong about, because we all made mistakes, right? And usually people don't fight over who did the biggest mistake, because I feel like if I try to put in something like what was a great achievement, you know, people will be like, oh, so you did better than me, or oh, you're more important than I am, and stuff like that. And I didn't want to create an environment, right? You don't want to do that if you want to create a safe space. So connecting with failures is a really fun thing to do. You get to laugh a lot. And, you know, this is chemistry working. When you laugh, you're just more relaxed, you're more open. So that really helps to kind of like show everyone that we all make mistakes. It's fine. We're going to make tons of mistakes here, and that's what we're looking for. Other is just the way you position as yourself as a facilitator, as a teacher is very important. You want to be approachable, right? You want your students to know that you don't know everything. And for many teachers, I found, you know, a lot of people that are in educational business, it's hard for us to admit that we don't know everything. But once you have, you know, this openness with your students, they are much more open to talk to you, and, you know, to really explore the answers with you, because that's what education is meant to be, right? Is, you know, an opportunity to explore, and not necessarily, you know, you being on the stage and just delivering the answers straight away.
Right. I love that.
Does
Like,
that answer your questions?
yeah, absolutely. Like how many, you know, you jump in and you say, that's the first thing that I do. I fail in front of my students as well. I think that's great. I have Post-its all over the place right here. So I think that's, entrepreneurs just have that. But I think that's wonderful. I wanted to ask you, kind of going back before university, right? So what does the education system look like in Africa, in Maputo, or where you grew up? Did you grow up in a small town outside of Maputo?
Yeah, I grew up in the third biggest town in Mozambique, in the north of Mozambique. And I think like my journey will kind of like answer that question very well, because my mother was a teacher. I mentioned that already.
Right.
And she was managing the Portuguese school in Mozambique. To give everyone a context, Mozambique was colonized by the Portuguese, and we became independent in like 45 years ago.
Okay.
So we still have a Portuguese school, and now we have the English school and the French school as well. And being in a Portuguese school, I was studying in a private school, right? I grew up in classes with, I think, 15 people maximum. Like the biggest classroom I was in a private school was like 29 people, and it was like over the top for them, right? So we have access to everything. You know, I had IETs at school, you know, all the beautiful things that you have in a private school. But then my mother passed away when I was about 14. And I had all these beautiful plans to kind of like move to the capital city of Mozambique and, you know, study abroad and all those kind of stuff. But then when she passed away, I kind of have to revisit my dreams and how I was going to accomplish those, right? And one thing was I had to study in a public school. So can you imagine a kid that spent 9 years in a private, in a corp or in a private school setup when you have access to everything, the toilets are working and stuff like that, moving to a public secondary school where still you have people sitting in the floor in a classroom, where a classroom has 180 students.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is something that I was in my, compared with my siblings, I was the only one that studied in a private school. So I will hear them speak about those things, but I never experienced those things myself, right? And kind of like fight for, tables and chairs. And
wow.
To me, it was like a jungle moving in. That was my first reaction, my first impression, right? Like, this is a jungle, we're going to die here. And it was such a contrast because I kind of had such good professors and teachers throughout my primary and high school period. But then when I was in secondary school, it's equivalent to the college in the US, here in Mozambique at least. And I remember this teacher that if you wrote in, your paper, if you wrote, you're the best, he will give you 1 point. So he was like, this is not even a teacher. I remember he coming to classroom and start singing to us, or sometimes, look at us and say, you're old pigs. And I was like, what the heck is going on here? Right? And then I really understood that my education was on my hands, right? I shouldn't wait for a teacher to tell me the things that I had to learn. So it was really kind of like, a wake-up call that if you want to learn something, that's up to you. It's not your teacher, it's not your friends, it's not your colleagues, it's really up to you. And yeah, it was very fun. I learned a lot in that settings. So that's what you have in Mozambique. You have, schools that, have 100 students in a classroom, but you also have schools where there is like 10 people in a classroom.
In the social aspect of things, are there, obviously in school, you check the box, right? I think that's something that's a lot of different places in public schools. In your social interactions, were there a lot of students who were like, you know what, I really want to do this, but my family wants to do this? Were there different things like that? What were the social interactions like in that public school setting that you were in with 180 kids in a classroom? Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, that's a jungle. I found that regardless of the social or economic status, all parents sort of project their expectations in their children's life. I was blessed that I remember when I was a kid and I was asking my mom, so what should I be when I grow up? She will tell me, you can be whatever. If you want to be a unicorn, that's up to you. I'm never going to tell you what you should do in your life. Right? You have plenty of options. I can help you go to those options, right? To help you figure it out, but still you are the one who's going to make up the call. But that was not the same thing for many of my friends, right? And for the longest time, I kind of blamed the parents for it. But then I also realized that we have to understand this huge generational gap between ourselves and our parents, right? At least here in Mozambique, we were communists at a point, then we were socialists, and only recently, really, we became, we embraced capitalism as a way of working, right? And for the longest time, if you had education, you will have a job, straightforward, right? The government will provide the jobs for everyone. But that, for at least 10 years from now, is completely different. People are realizing that you're going to school, you're going to university, that doesn't mean that you will get a job. Not because you suck or you're not good enough. It's just that there are not enough jobs for everyone.
Right.
And that's something that for our parents, who for them it was kind of like a straight line. You graduate, you have a job, it's really hard for them to accept, right? And it's normal they will advise you to go for what they think and consider to be the most safest way to go, right? So it is a challenge still, especially for young people, to kind of grow outside what people are expecting. But once you realize that most people are coming from a place of love, they really care about you, it makes it easier to have those difficult conversations.
Got it.
And it's something that is, across the board. It's not just, the poor parents from a suburban area or the rich parents from, the creme of society. It's not about that. Everyone has those things.
All right, so this is the big question. And the big question is...
Bring it on.
Yes. Julio Maria is now the head of all education, public education in Mozambique.
Yeah.
what do you change? What is one or two things right away that you would change in that system? Obviously, we want to cut down 180 kids in a classroom, but like, what are some of the, like, maybe the theories and the things that you've seen that you see need changed?
But what I'm changing every day, all day, is I'm literally updating the educational system, because I think that's the main point here, right? I don't know where this happened, but we kind of, or when did it happen, because we've kind of forgot that education in the first place, it's just a tool to enable us to live a better lives, right? As in society, with our world. So that's the whole point of education in the first place. So I don't believe on, saying that, oh, and I'm not advising anyone to become a dropout just for the sake of being a dropout. But, that's not what I'm saying at all. But, if you look for, so there's so many people like from Rihanna, which is, the most rich singer right now, that she's a high school dropout, right? There's a lot of people who drop out from school and kind of like pursue their dreams, but still they didn't drop out education. I believe I think that most people forget about it, right? Dropping out of school is one thing, dropping out of education is completely different thing. So I will bring education back to schools by rechanging the system, updating the system to our current reality. We are not in the industrial revolution anymore. We've moved past even technological revolution. We are like really, really going deep. And now to me, we live in an age of abundance. So that's how the educational system in schools should reflect that change. That would be my first thing. And of course, with all those numbers, we have to forget about them. But also, enable teachers. Because I feel that most teachers, they still live in the past. I kid you not, I remember doing this exam based on the answers that my older sister did on her exam. And so that you guys know, my older sister and I, we have 13 years of difference.
Wow.
So this teacher didn't update anything that he was given for 13 years.
Oh, wow.
Right? And this is something that happens with a lot of teachers, right? When we find that kind of like quote unquote perfect formula, we stick with it and we don't update. So we're really going updating things up to really match what society is going through, and by that preparing people to be ready for their future.
I think you probably looked at that test like, what? This is that'd be a great.
Yeah, it was literally that.
Yeah, that happens a lot. I've seen that even in university here in the United States, where I remember we would somebody had a study guide and it was the exact same, and it was like from 1990, and it was so. So let's talk a little bit about your profession as a professional coach, somebody who's training people. Tell us a little bit about that. Where can people find you, and what are some of the services and things that you offer?
Yeah, amazing. I'm happy to talk about it. So with sharing knowledge, what we really do is enable people to live a fulfilled life, not live a life seeking for fulfillment, because I do believe that whatever we are seeking, we already have it. We just have to reconnect with it and then deliver that to our world. And since our careers and our businesses end up kind of like taking a huge chunk of our lives, it's not just 8 hours that you spend working in your business. It's not just 8 hours that you spend, building your career. Those end up being a great tool for you to kind of like build your life around it, right? And build a life where you feel happy to go into work, but also coming home and kind of like switching off, all the work that you are putting and trying to do. So what we do is we offer one-on-one sessions to people who are trying to start their business, trying to start their careers, but we also support them in building those businesses and building those careers. And then, of course, what happens afterwards, right? You won't be running your business for your entire life. You eventually want to retire. So how will you do that? The same thing with your career. And most important, how your life integrates with your business and your career. You also offer trainings because there is a huge power within groups, and we exploit that as well. And we also work organizations that are trying to kind of like revamp and rethink their own educational systems, right? Either by providing, counseling that's tailored for their students and what their students are going to be and happen, and also organizations that are trying to create a culture that is more disciplined, but also enabling their people to grow in a sense. So that's what we do. You can find us on social media, on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Julio Muhorro. That's JulioMuhorro, Julio Muhorro. And we can connect through that. I'll send you all the amazing links. I share a lot of content on social media to really help you reconnect with yourself and understand your purpose, so that you can live a more fulfillment life and transform your reality from outside in.
Thank you so much. I'll put all that information up down below for our listeners. Amazing. And now I know, when I just looked at your Twitter handle this morning, I was like, oh, a top 100 young influencer of Africa. I'm blessed to have you on the show. Thank you so much, Julio Maria, for being here on Disrupt Education.
I thank you for the opportunity. It was amazing talking to you.
Listeners, thank you so much for listening. Please hit that subscribe button, and we'll talk to you next time on Disrupt Education.